Fred is in Montreal. Is that right?
It is, and it is not as sunny as Chicago, and it's getting cold here.
Yeah, it's -6 Celsius here today. So, you know. And John, where are you?
I'm joining from Washington D.C. area, and it is our first few brisk days in D.C. You can almost feel winter in the air. It's nice.
Okay. Yeah, famously winter is coming. There's no getting around that. We've got
That's right.
Marcel who's commented that he's joining from Germany in Dortmund. And that's great to hear that people are sort of staying after work hours in Europe to watch us talk about Kubernetes and stuff. Um cool. I think we are live on YouTube as well, so I think we're good to go. So excellent stuff. Welcome everybody to I think this is the 26th Civo online meetup. We started these way back at the start of the COVID lockdowns and we've been going ever since. Um Hopefully you can all see the screen that I'm sharing with the title slide. Today we're going to be looking at GitOps and how it fits in with Kubernetes and some of the best practices around GitOps with our friends from KubeFirst to John and Frederick. So my name is Kai. I work as a developer and developer advocate here at Civo. And as I said today, I'm joined by, and I'm hoping not to do this as a big formal kind of, here are these people who will be presenting at you. I want to keep this very informal, and that's why the chat is open. But yeah, we're joined by John Dietz, who is a co-founder at KubeFirst, and Frederick Harper, who is principal developer advocate at KubeFirst as well. John, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, thanks, Kai. Yeah, like Kai said, co-founder at KubeFirst. It's been a passion project of ours for a handful of years, and our passion is empowering organizations with instant GitOps platforms. So really happy to be on the show today. Thanks for having us on, Kai.
And Fred, do you want to go next?
No, yes. So, my name is Fred. By the way, good for saying my complete name, Frederick, correctly. I know it's so hard for people not speaking French, but you can call me Fred. I'm a developer advocate at KubeFirst, and you know what? I'm not one of the co-founder, but yesterday was my 1 year anniversary at KubeFirst. So it's been 1 year that I joined the team. Still excited about the project, about the product, about what we're doing, really trying to make developers' life easier and DevOps, GitOps people's life easier when it comes to Kubernetes. So thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy that both of you were able to join, and yeah, I'm excited to talk specifically KubeFirst and sort of exactly that, making developers and DevOps folks' lives easier, because all of this stuff is potentially very overwhelming, and I'm a big fan of what KubeFirst sort of packages in to do exactly that. So before we get to that, I'm going to have to do my obligatory promotion for Civo Navigate. And anybody watching this live or anytime before February 20th, 2024, we are running the third Civo Navigate event, and that's going to be in Austin, Texas this time. There's a code on the screen now, which is Civo Nav Web 02, that will give you 50% off of your ticket. And as of right now, we're still in early bird pricing, meaning that 50% off will get you a 2-day tech conference for all of $100. So, you know, I think that's a steal, and especially going by the caliber of talks in previous events. And in this event, I think we're also going to have a high caliber, not least because both John and Frederick will be speaking.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's going to be my first Civo Navigate for different reason. I was not able to attend previously, so I'm really looking forward to it. That's going to be fun stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Can you give us any ideas about your topics, like a sneak preview?
Yeah, so I have one talk I'm gonna do. It's gonna be about Argo CD. So, if you want to learn about like that great CD tool, learn a little more about how you can incorporate that, thinking about GitOps, like how it really can help you being successful when it comes to like cloud native, using Kubernetes, and going the GitOps way, you need to come see my talk.
Awesome. And John?
And yeah, my talk's going to be basically we're going to try and show in a live demo the process of creating a complete GitOps oriented infrastructure as code and application delivery IDP from scratch that includes even clusters and clusters by the end of it. And at the end of the workshop, everybody's going to have all the tools that they need in order to do it at their own companies or homes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Company.yaml, let's do it.
Yeah. Yes, configuration as code. Right. So I promised to not have this too formal, but I thought we'd try and get everybody up to speed on some terminology and GitOps concepts. So that's kind of what we're going to be starting with. And then I'm going to hand over to Fred and John for a quick KubeFirst introduction. And then I think we'll have a bit of a talk around sort of tooling and sort of best practices and experience that KubeFirst has sort of to share experience, expertise-wise. And then I believe that there's even going to be a demo. So my kind of idea around this introduction to GitOps is that GitOps allows for true continuous delivery in a cloud-native world. So CI/CD has tended to be kind of, you have pipelines, you push code to a repository and you run pipelines, you run your tests, and if everything works out, then you can do a release. And continuous implies to me some sort of automation. And I think GitOps as a concept really helps with that. So just as an introduction, GitOps is a term that's been around since 2017, and it originated at a company called Weaveworks, who are a sort of cloud consulting company. And it's one of those 1 + 1 makes 3 situations. It's a paradigm for managing infrastructure and apps using Git as the single source of truth. And you take Git or any other version control system, and instead of just using it for your application code, pushing your code changes, you use it for application code, configurations, infrastructure as code. And then you have all your automated systems managing deployment and version rollout, sort of automated as part of authenticated commits. And if you're feeling fancy, you can even include cloud infrastructure management in that as well. And then, so I came up with this sort of thesis of GitOps allowing for the true realization of continuous delivery of software in practice. And I hope to show what I mean by going through the original 4 principles of GitOps that were sort of delineated by Weaveworks. So yeah, the principles of GitOps are that everything is stored in Git and described declaratively. The canonical desired system state is versioned in Git, and approved changes that can be automatically applied to the system, as in that there's an automation thing there, and software agents ensure correctness and alert on divergence. Okay, I get that. That's a lot, but let's go step by step. So the entire system is described declaratively. And declarative means that you state the end result you'd like to see, not the steps that get taken to get there. It's like, build me this application, and you don't have to sort of go line by line of like, okay, now provision a server and install Ubuntu on it and then do this. So it suits the Kubernetes paradigm because Kubernetes is also declarative. The API in Kubernetes attempts to satisfy specified end states, this many replicas in this configuration with these things sort of networked together. And you'll see how this plays nicely together. And that description sits in version control, usually Git, right? And that means that you can replicate it if you needed to. And you can recover from disasters if you needed to, because the whole description of the system, from the code to the infrastructure to how it's sort of networked together, is described in Git. Okay, so Git is the source of truth. The desired system state is versioned in Git. And that means that what is in Git as the last commit in the main branch will be reflected in the application and its infrastructure. And it also means that the entire history of your configuration is trackable through version control. And with a GitOps workflow, you can roll back versions of your application quite easily. So if your automated tests in your CI/CD pipeline fail to catch a bug and you need to recover quickly, you do a git revert, and you get back to the system state of things the way they were. And again, this works in the Kubernetes paradigm really quickly or really easily because you treat containers as cattle, not pets. You go, whoops, that didn't work. Run these instead. Another good feature of Git is the strong authentication. So you can have signed commits and you can have SSH keyed commits and everything else. And that means that you can audit who introduced what change, by whom, when, and if your commit messages are good, you can even see what reason. So yeah, that's useful for auditing. Okay, now we get to the magic part of GitOps, right? Because GitOps systems automatically apply changes to the system as soon as they are approved. And as I said, not only are you storing the application code in Git, you're also storing the configuration deployment information so you can automate changes. You can say like, okay, like if this repository has this infrastructure as code command saying that your cluster needs to have 4 nodes instead of 3, on the next reconcile, that will be reflected. So continuous integration, continuous delivery actually become continuous because they are automated. There's no more like, okay, fine, ship it, push. All right. As soon as the code itself is approved, and you do need to have that approval process in place, and you need to have kind of authentication and how would you say it, like the policies in place, as in who can push and who can make what changes and what branch are being pulled from. But effectively, if you have that in place, it does become continuous because on every approved change to the main branch, you are having the changes performed live.
That's one of the things. Sorry, that's one of the things I really like, because you take like Git best practices from my point of view, and you bring them to like GitOps management, which also mean that like if you don't have like good Git practices and like review process, and you go through a PR and you don't have like review process and you commit directly on main, which you should never do. If you know me, I say that all the time. I mean, like it means you may end up with like some crappy practices when it comes to Kubernetes and GitOps. But I really love that because it's also using tools that most developers or DevOps people know already to like bring your games to the next level. So it's a super, I guess my super long comment was to say like, hey, that's a cool thing, and thanks for bringing that up, because I really feel that's important.
Yeah, no, thanks for jumping in, because that's exactly it. Is like the reason it's called GitOps is because most of us use Git, right? And it's not required to be Git, but that version control effectively has now become the de facto standard, and as weird as it is, has so many good features for controlling of, what actually can happen, when. And the audit trail like is really good. I've seen a thing, I didn't come up with this, but I like the phrase of Git is the only good blockchain. Like there's the history is always there. The transactions you can see, so yeah, apparently there were T-shirts like that at DEF CON this year, and I quite like that.
Love
pretty
it.
strong.
Love it so much.
Yeah. Okay. So what was I saying? Yeah. So you don't need to manually apply manifests and cluster configs. You don't need to do kubectl apply. You have those pipelines set up, which means you automate. And I will go and say that I know that this has saved my bacon at Civo once or twice, more than once. I introduced a commit with a new bug. It got merged to main and took the whole site down. And as soon as I realized that, because every alert in the world went up, I was able to roll back to a previous commit. We use Argo CD, and basically I changed the commit hash. Like, no, you're deploying from this instead. The whole site was back in about 5 minutes. It took about 5 years off of my life, but I know that like that can be done. So you live and you learn, and GitOps can be extremely powerful and magic. Okay, so the last kind of thing is software agents to ensure correctness and alert on divergence. With GitOps, you have components that watch for changes both in Git and on the application and on its infrastructure, right? So obviously GitOps relies on something to be there to monitor and trigger actions based on that. But it also means that, you're watching for something that if something is deployed into production that's unexpected, it can send alerts to Slack or PagerDuty or whatever system you're using. Like, hey, it looks like somebody may have manually deployed a new version of microservice X. Who did that or why? So then, you become aware of sort of this drift between, if somebody is bypassing the Git source of truth, or you could just have it override if you need to. And then if you make a change in your infrastructure, like I said earlier, you change a node specification in your infrastructure as code repo. Well, we're going to need more capacity, so add more nodes. Those tool agents can watch for that change and go, cool, reconcile and apply that configuration change to whatever cloud you use. And then, like you can also have agents that alert you to various other things like performance, indicators of performance issues, which then allow you to automate changes based on that, or at least, get engineers to have your eyes out there. Okay. So, why GitOps, right?
just say if people want to like follow up on the GitOps principle, there's the Open GitOps working group that like have like a GitHub repository. They have a website too. I think it's opengitops.dev, and they list like what everything like Kai shared about right now, and they also have some best practices, and like it's an open group trying to make GitOps a thing, and like it's not a standard per se, but like they're sharing like best practices and all those things. So if you want more info about that, Kai did an amazing job, but you'd probably go back to work after you may forgot some of the things he said. So either you watch again the recording, or you're going up and GitOps.dev, and you're also gonna get great information about it. But
yeah, that is a good site. Thanks for highlighting that, Fred. But yeah, sorry, this massive whistle stop tour, and this is not intended to be this will teach you everything about GitOps. This is kind of like, if you haven't encountered it before, this is the kind of things that we're talking about. And that's the point of my presentation, which means that hopefully you'll be able to then watch, the rest of the discussion, and John and Frederick's demo, like with some understanding of what's happening. So yeah, just a quick kind of recap of why GitOps is like, it simplifies the mental model of complex modern apps. You've got one source of truth. You've got Git, right? So you don't have to go and dig like, hey, Stanley, what did you configure that thing to be? Like, it's gone down, like, Git describes what it should look like. If it doesn't look like that, you will get something that monitors and notifies that it's not, right? You automate. So you're basically increasing developer velocity because your configuration will adapt automatically. And if you achieve continuous delivery and you realize that you've introduced something like, whoa, that shouldn't have been there, roll back, no problem, right? Which means that it's truly cloud native. It suits the Kubernetes paradigm of declarative infrastructure and eventual sort of I want to say eventual consistency. It's not eventual, it's reconciliation, right? Which means the developers can abstract away some of that complexity of the infrastructure side and concentrate on dev, test, and release, right? And your actual infrastructure becomes lines in a file. Configuration is managed through everything. Like, everything has audit trails, which means that it's basically a much more, somebody can conceptualize it in their head easier rather than going, full bore with like, I need to know everything about everything, because it's there, it's referenced, it's in Git. Cool. So I think that's it. And hopefully we're on the same page. And I'm going to welcome the KubeFirst crew, meet myself for a bit, and they can sort of demo stuff.
That's awesome.
All right.
Great job highlighting everything GitOps, and like in the benefits, one of the things I really like too is I think it's a great collaboration tools, because again, like everything is on Git, and hopefully you stop doing some like ClickOps or ScriptOps, and like the main knowledge of like what production should be or your dev or staging should be is on Git. It's not like on someone's computer, or worse, it's not like only on the production server. Even if you have backup, it may not be the way to go. So yeah, good job. But on that note, I said a lot of things. John's gonna talk more about KubeFirst.
Yeah, thanks, Fred, Kai. Kai, really awesome GitOps. I could literally take you with me as my warm up to every single talk that I ever give forevermore. That was really really well put together. Appreciate the foundation there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was hoping to, and I'm hoping that you're looking at a KubeVerse console screen right now, Fred.
We
Is that
are.
right?
We are.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So. Like Kai introduced us, we're the KubeVerse team, and we're basically trying to empower organizations to get instant GitOps platforms with all the most popular open source cloud native tools that everybody is basically using anyway. But instead of having it take 9 months to put all the pieces together, we want to be able to empower you with all those pieces put together instantly, backed by our organization in a way where all of the components of the platform have already been vetted, and additionally backed by a cloud native engineering group in our community where we've all decided that we all want to be using the most popular open source tools the same way, and having an army of engineers that are all using the same cloud native tools the same way is really powerful to a lot of shops. So appreciate you giving us a little bit of time to show how the KubeVerse platform provisioning process works and how GitOps works. The provisioning process is super easy. We're available in the Civo marketplace. You can just, when you go to create a Kubernetes cluster, you can just click KubeVerse in the little featured tiles section down at the bottom. And that'll create this bootstrapping application that I'm going to show you right here. Now, I'm not going to bore you with an entire provisioning process of a management cluster that can take, upward of 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on DNS and the weather and whatever. But
also on your channel, you've got, sorry to interrupt, you've got demos of that, including doing that on Civo. So
yeah,
you should absolutely tune into the KubeVerse YouTube channel and have a look.
Yeah, but it's a simple 1, 2, 3 shot. Once you have your bootstrapping application in a Kubernetes cluster, you basically just have to select your Git provider, your cloud provider. I'm going to select Civo here, obviously. And we're going to have to provide some credentials to get into that cloud and into that Git provider. You specify a handful of details about where you want your new management cluster placed, and you click this magic create cluster button. Let me go ahead and kick one off.
And the magic is not working because you don't have a cluster name, but now that's going to work.
But now it's working. Now it's working. So here we have just kind of a simple high-level view of the 14 steps that we go through to create your management cluster for you. It's all created from scratch. So we'll do things like create your networks for you, create your Kubernetes cluster for you. We'll manage once the Kubernetes cluster is available to you, we'll bootstrap that cluster leveraging GitOps, and I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like right here. So I'm going to skip over this provisioning. Just close your eyes and imagine that in 15 minutes, we're going to get a new cluster there. The cluster that you get will show up in your Civo dashboard, just like this one does right here. This is our management cluster in the FRA1 region. And this is the end result screen of this right here. So once this finally gets to completion, it says, congratulations, you've got yourself a new KubeVerse management cluster. You can copy this password to get your initial credential, and then click this button to get into your new management cluster.
And
once
John,
you're in your new... Sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, we just need to say like the 15 minutes is really not like Civo is fast, is deploying, creating the cluster really fast. It's because of like everything else we're going to show you that we had to the cluster after that need to be installed, that need to be synchronized. So just to be clear, like Civo is really fast. And this is the reason why it only takes 15 minutes with like everything else we install for you on your management cluster. So sorry, John, just wanted to be super clear about that.
Yeah, that's really well said, Fred. In fact, we were talking kind of privately about just how impressed we are with the Civo Cloud and the stability and the speed of cluster creation. We're obviously a platform engineering shop, and creating Kubernetes clusters and bootstrapping those clusters is our bread and butter. It's what we do. We know there's a lot of platform engineering shops out there in the world that are in a similar boat. You've got to create infrastructure. You have to test that bootstrapping operation of that infrastructure. And when that infrastructure is slow to create, it's a very time-consuming and impactful to your velocity on your platform engineering team. And we've just been downright impressed with our experience in the Cibo Cloud. Those 2-minute clusters are just they've literally quintupled our velocity just by being able to iterate as swiftly as we can. So great call out there, Fred.
You're making me blush.
I know. It's like the guys are in the room or something. But I swear we say the same thing even when you're not in the room. So this is the result of a KubeFirst management installation. You get this new URL. This is an example domain that I have called free.gitopsmagic.com. That's what our company does. We give people free GitOps Magic. You're going to have your own company with your own domain that describes whatever you do, and this will be KubeFirst whatever your domain is. But that cluster that we created and attached to that domain is going to include everything that you need to run your organization. It's going to include application delivery, infrastructure management, secrets management, user management, roles, single sign-on, you name it. If you need it, it's on the management ecosystem. And as of our latest release, we have this new ability to GitOps create additional downstream clusters. So you can have your development cluster, staging cluster, CI clusters, whatever you want. So with Kai's description of how GitOps works, we just wanted to take a second and show you what GitOps looks like in the real world. So we've got this GitOps catalog here that you get when you get a KubeFirst install. And we have a handful of additional applications that aren't part. These are all part, except for Datadog here, which I added afterward. These other ones are all part of the core KubeFirst platform. They're all pre-configured. They're exactly what you want them to be as soon as you do an install. But then there's might be some other tools that you want to add to your management ecosystem after a provisioning process. It would be too opinionated for us to impose that on you. But if you want them, it's as simple as clicking install here to add applications to your management cluster. Now, why is it that it's that simple? It has to do with this GitOps repository that we give you. So this is a sample GitHub org called free.gitopsmagic.com. And when we did an installation, it created this GitOps repository for you. You can see this thing's only 13 hours old. We have this registry directory that represents all of the clusters in your ecosystem and all of the applications that are bound through GitOps to that cluster. So this is a representation of your management cluster. And it has all of these great, best-in-class tools like HashiCorp Vault, like external secrets operator, like Cert Manager, external DNS, tried and true, great cloud-native, open-source, free tier tools that are just powerhouse pieces of most enterprise organizations. And we pre-integrate them all, give them to you, and then the entire platform is powered by this Git repository. And this is truly the power of GitOps, is that you're able to take these vast, expansive, complex micro-product, microservice ecosystems and organize them in a single directory that represents your cluster's desired state. And then you can attach a GitOps engine and say, please watch this directory, and it will. And whatever you put in that directory on the main branch becomes a part of your cluster. And if it has any trouble doing so, it will tell you why it had trouble doing so. It's from an asset management standpoint, if you've ever worked in any kind of complex enterprise level Kubernetes ecosystems where you just have clusters everywhere and applications everywhere and different teams that are building different microservices that also need to be in those clusters, and you have development and staging and production. Asset management of micro products is a major, major problem in Kubernetes, and GitOps fixes it. It gives you a single Git repository that represents your source of truth that is so impactful that if you lost your best cloud native engineer and hired another cloud native engineer right after they were gone, and there was no ability for the two of them to ever talk, every single answer that new cloud native engineer will be in your GitOps repository. So from a discoverability standpoint, from an asset management standpoint, and from the standpoint of getting rid of all of the domain knowledge that you have in your organization about how stuff works, you don't need it anymore if you follow good patterns and practices in GitOps. So just wanted to call that out real quick.
But John, I'm a little bit worried now because you've shown us the GitOps catalog and you click on a button. You did some like ClickOps to install stuff to the cluster. I mean, like that I just said, like with GitOps, you should not do ClickOps and ScriptOps anymore. So like, I just want to reassure people that like when we do that with a GitOps catalog, it's part of the GitOps magic that we offer, because when John clicked on install, if we try with Argo events, you know what's going to happen? Everything's going to happen in your GitOps repository. So now if John goes in like GitOps repository and he looks at the YAML file, you're going to see a new YAML file called argo events.yaml or argo-events.yaml. I can't remember exactly the exact name. So like the magic we've done with a GitOps catalog is we basically automatically had the file in your GitOps repository, and Argo CD is going to do the rest for you in Synchronize. So it's what I call the good way of doing ClickOps, meaning that like we put the files in the GitOps repo and the ecosystem will do the rest for you.
Thank you, Fred. Yeah, that's a really great call out. We do back all of our ScriptOps with GitOps so that you're guaranteed that final desired state will be the permanent state that is governed by your GitOps engine, in our case, Argo CD. And here you can see when I click that button to add an application to the KubeVerse platform, literally all we're doing is adding some YAML to your registry clusters management directory. And this management directory is managed by Argo CD to add applications to management. So by simply clicking that button, we're not installing anything proactively. We're just placing some YAML of what we want the desired state to be in your Git repository. And magically, you now have an application in your cluster. We can see, for example, in fact, let me show you an Argo CD. It's a little bit more attractive over here. So if we hop into Argo CD and look at our registry, this registry directory is the directory that is bound to the GitOps registry for your management cluster. So when we look at these applications that get installed to management, if you go to the registry application in Argo CD, that's an exact replica of that directory structure. So when you add applications, we're just placing it in Git, and it's Argo CD's job in order to enforce that application gets delivered to your production or to your management, staging, production environment, whatever it might be. So the next thing that I wanted to show, and the demo is almost done here, but Kai described very eloquently that asset management, application management in Kubernetes is substantially improved by leveraging GitOps. But that doesn't only apply to applications, because Kubernetes has extended its capabilities through CRDs to be able to also manage infrastructure. So if you want to manage infrastructure, also leveraging GitOps, there are some great engines that you can use. We happen to be using Crossplane that is wrapping a Terraform provider. So the code that we write is Terraform. We allow Crossplane to manage the governance of that Terraform, but we also have Atlantis if you want to transfer that ownership from a GitOps workflow to a more human-oriented Atlantis workflow. We have methodologies to do that as well. But to show you what that looks like to create infrastructure also using GitOps, we're going to create a new physical cluster. Let's pretend for a second that maybe you want a different CI cluster. You don't want your CI tools to be in your management cluster. You want it to be isolated, maybe in a separate cluster that's explicitly used for CI purposes, maybe because you have concerns because you're an open source project or whatever it might be. So let's go ahead and create a cluster called CI here. We'll place it in the FRA region and select a number of instances and account and hit create. And you might expect that what this is doing is like running some Terraform because we hit the go button. But really, all we're doing, just like we did with applications, is we're placing some GitOps content in your GitOps repository and allowing the ecosystem and the GitOps engine to enforce and make sure that that infrastructure gets created. So to take a look at that super quick, again, we're going to go to services. And in GitOps, we'll see that we have a very recent addition. If we look at this commit is adding a whole bunch of stuff, not just a single application, but this is an entire cluster with a whole bunch of applications that it's creating in this new CI cluster. And if we look at that in Argo CD, if we go to clusters, we'll see that we have this new registry CI that's spinning up. And if we dive into that, you can see that it's not all happening all at once. There's sequencing and there's an order of operations. And the first thing that we have to do to create and bootstrap and hydrate a cluster with applications is we have to create that infrastructure. And right now we're on the infrastructure job. So if I dive into that, we'll see that we have a cross-plane workspace here, and we have a job that's waiting for that cross-plane to be fully synced. And if we were to hop into our Civo Cloud and hit the refresh button here, what you'll find is that we have this new CI cluster that's being provisioned. This is truly what we love about the Civo Cloud so very much, is just that speed with which you can do these iterations and get that infrastructure layer Kubernetes cluster up, operational, ready to go, ready to receive workloads. So in just like 50 seconds here, this thing's going to wrap up. And meanwhile, we have this job out here that is just pulling, waiting for that cluster to be ready. And it's a simple little job. It's literally just pinging the Civo Cloud saying, hey, is that cluster up yet? Is that cluster up yet? As soon as it's up, this job will be considered complete. And the next sync wave of orchestration will come into play. So all of these yellow apps that are in here that are waiting for the infrastructure to be available will start to unfurl once the infrastructure is there and the secrets are established. There's also some cool stuff that we do so that external secrets operator can reach back into your management vault, and we automatically create Argo CD projects for each one of the clusters that you can create so that you can really easily organize all of the applications. You can see from our just at the top level here, like there's a lot of applications that you get with the Kubefirst platform. Building a complete application delivery and infrastructure management ecosystem from scratch is going to require a lot of pieces, especially once you extend that to include development, staging, production clusters. But it's all very well organized with these different projects so that you can dive in and see only the resources that are associated with your particular applications. So what happened?
So you use the UI again to create stuff, but like as you've shown, like everything went to the GitOps repository. So what's what I love and about our tool is that in the end you end up with like a GitOps repository that is yours, and you can do whatever you want with it after. So we always respect the GitOps principle. You end up with your GitOps repo, and you can do whatever you want. And the second thing I want to add, John is showing you about Argo CD. If you're like, I don't really know that tool, he's shown me a lot of things. You know what? Civo Navigate is coming up in the US, and there is someone that I happen to know who is giving a talks about Argo CD. So just go to Civo Navigate and go see that talk from a guy called Frederick Harper. He's going to introduce you a little more to Argo
Frederick's
CD.
talk.
That's awesome.
Self-promote guy is here. Yeah.
We love what you do, Fred. We really do. So here we can see we have the CI infrastructure has been created. It's available in the Civo cloud. Now we have this external secret that is establishing a relationship between this new cluster and your management cluster's vault, so that you can easily pull secrets out of your management vault into your downstream workload clusters. All of that is taken care of for you. And as soon as it gets past the configuration of Vault, you'll start to see the rest of the application start to unfurl. We'll give you Ingress Nginx as your Ingress controller, cert manager so that you can get certs, external DNS so that you can manage your DNS for your applications that are going to live in those clusters, assuming, of course, that those are going to require Ingress and host names and stuff like that. And you might be wondering to yourself, well, why is it these applications specifically that's going to my new workload cluster? And maybe I want to be able to adjust what those components are. And we make that extremely easy for you to do. All you have to do is go to your GitOps repository. We have this templates directory here. The templates directory establishes what the rules are for how you create physical clusters and how you create virtual clusters. And it's literally just like your management cluster was. It's just a bunch of GitOps that has been orchestrated in a way where all of the different sync waves of interdependencies are well tended to. And we give you all of this stuff for free on the KubeFirst platform. Today on 2.3, we have some new pro tier features that are enabled and still free, while we're receiving feedback on sort of the way the templates work and what different organizations need and stuff like that. So we're very much actively listening to any opinions or desires of this type of an implementation. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're able to get these sweet Kubernetes clusters. They're all created statefully from a desired state that you keep in a GitOps repository that we give you for free. And we hope that that's going to be really valuable to a lot of organizations. I know as a Kubernetes expert engineer, I have taken that expert knowledge and walked into shops knowing exactly what I want to do. And without something like KubeFirst, it will take you 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 months to get that brand new from scratch cloud native platform up and off the ground and complete it to the point where you have single sign-on and user groups and application delivery and infrastructure management and secrets management and cluster creation and lifecycle management, et cetera. So our stance is, hey, everybody, let's stop all building the same platform using the same open source tools. Instead, build your platform on top of the KubeFirst platform, and then we'll take care of the burden of all the things that we're all doing anyway. And it's just up to you to tend to the applications that your organization requires to be successful. And that's really the spiel with KubeFirst, Kai. At that point, I think I'm going to stop sharing and let's talk about some GitOps.
Thank you so much for the demo, and B, just the way that you finished that, which just made me almost tired just listening, just thinking about all the components that go into an engineered platform like that these days. And
100%.
The beauty of Kubernetes was always that it is open, and you can do it doesn't tell you this is how you do security and this is how you do, it sort of leaves that to that thing that you would see in textbooks is the rest is left as an exercise to the reader, and it's now become too complex for any single person really to get up and running. And realistically, small companies may not have the funds to pay for a team of platform engineers to get that thing set up, which means that having something like, here's some best practices, here are things that tend to be most used, pre-configured, that you can just bolt in, is that's like music to any small team's ears, surely,
Yep. Yeah, no, I've seen things that I have waited my entire career to see with GitOps. I've seen, I don't know if you've ever been in an organization that had a major production cluster level outage, but it can be really problematic if you're not set up correctly, because and once you're a more advanced Kubernetes environment that has not just your 3 applications, 3 microservice applications for your SaaS business, plus, maybe 10 other components in order to get that operational in the cloud. But once you break out of that mold and get just like one step beyond it, where you now have multiple clusters and they're on different versions of Kubernetes, and you have not 3 microservices, but you have 20 and 40 and 100 microservices that you're delivering to not just this one cluster, but these multiple clusters. And some of them are maybe, blue-green clusters that represent your production in different regions and things like that. And if you're ever in an environment like that and you lose a cluster, and this hasn't happened to me personally, individually, since the old COPS days, way back before managed clusters were even a thing in the clouds. But man, when you lose that cluster, you've got a big problem on your hands, because you have to create the new infrastructure for the replacement cluster, and that's the easy part. The problem is, what the heck was in it? If you ask the wrong people in your shop, the people that are doing DevOps stuff in your CI pipelines, they'll tell you, oh no, it's no big deal. All you have to do is run these jobs all over again. And that's how they delivered them in the first place. So they'll just deliver them again. Trust me, no problem. But the reality is, all of those different microservices are generally set up in either a mono repo or a whole bunch of polyrepo Git repositories. And developers were not anticipating you to have an outage today. And they've been messing around with their applications. Maybe they're messing around with their CI. There will be applications that do not build and cannot deliver. And that's extremely problematic if your CI pipelines are part of your disaster recovery approach for the recreation of your production clusters. GitOps gets rid of all of that. It doesn't get rid of CI, but it gets rid of the problem. It says, hey, let's change the story for CI. For years, we said, CI/CD, CI/CD.
Mm-hmm.
We crammed them together like it was one thing. And that's because CI pipelines included continuous delivery in a way that's no longer natural and needed for Kubernetes. Now the rule with GitOps is, let's let our CI do what CI does best. We're going to let it build containers. We're going to let it publish Helm charts. We're going to let it test stuff. And we're going to deliver versions in a promotable way to a dev stage prod environment, but we're not going to do it proactively. We're simply going to set the desired state for that application version, and we're going to let the system, that's a pull-based system, decide how to make that reality and complain if there's a problem. And that disaster recovery posture is just, I can't describe how impactful and important it is to have that DR posture instead of a CI pipeline oriented DR posture when you're in a circumstance like, I need a new production cluster and we're starting from scratch in the middle of the night. I've seen in operations like that with GitOps, you can create your new cluster, and we already showed you the directory that it's bound to. If you install Argo CD and point it to that exact same directory, you get that exact same cluster, which is just an SRE's dream come true. So yeah, anyway, I'm babbling a little bit, but very passionate and love the GitOps posture.
And that's the thing about the whole thing as well, is like, I firmly am of the belief that, there are a handful of companies in this world that need 5 nines of availability, like 99.99999 is, what was that, 12 minutes a year of downtime? Right. Most companies can probably handle maybe even 10 times that without, but you are going to encounter downtime, and the less hair you have to pull out of your head to recover from it, and the more guaranteed that it is that you're going to, like you said, you're going to get that same exact cluster as you had before, well then that's just it's peace of mind,
Right. Yeah. Right. And that's just the DR aspect of it. There's also a portability aspect of it. Like, I want to take my entire production environment, with every single version of every single microservice that's deployed to that production environment. And I would like to run that on my local host. If you're not doing GitOps, good luck. It's going to take a ton of work. You'll never get to the end of the road. Your organization will spin its wheels on it, and it's just never going to take the way you want it to take, even though you have that dream and it's the right dream to have. Without GitOps on Kubernetes, it's just very unattainable without an enormous team. And with GitOps, you don't need that enormous team anymore. You just need that desired state. And you can pick up that production directory, copy it, paste it, say, this is now my local host environment, change the things that you want about localhost, and bootstrap your own local cluster against that directory. And you have production just with your changes, which is super nice. And you can say that same story from the Civo cloud to your local host, or from the AWS cloud to the Civo cloud, or any direction that you want to go. Being able to port enormously complex microservice ecosystems across clouds, across platforms, it's all very doable in a GitOps oriented way. So
yeah, and that, like, I've sort of, going back to my presentation bit, is like, isn't that the promise of cloud native? Like, weren't we meant to have this sort of replicable and infinitely scalable, or movable infrastructure? And it what should matter is really, where's the DNS pointing, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Anything else from you guys, or shall we do a bit of Q&A just at the end here? We've got about 8 minutes scheduled.
Yeah, no, we're keeping it loose. Wherever you want to take us, we're happy to go.
Yeah, I know that I've seen John Poyser in the chat earlier, and he's actually sent a 2-part question in to as part of his registration. And I'm going to throw this at Fred first, and then the second part to John. So Fred, what's your latest favorite cat video?
That is the best question ever on a live stream.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Should I give you a minute while you find one?
No, actually, I wouldn't say maybe latest. I have 2-part answers because it's cat. It can be complicated. No, the first part is really, it's a whole video. I just love the cat trying to drink water from the sink, but the water just go in his head, and he's still like trying to lick the water. And then for that cat, he is drinking the water. So I just, like, it's stupid video, but I love it. But the second part is not like just one video. It's a South African musician called the Kiffness, and he is making like really nice sound with videos of cats that are talking or meowing, and he's called the Kiffness. He is just really good. Yeah, he did the one Lonely Cat, which was one of the most popular. He's just really,
I know
really
that
good.
One, yeah.
He did a couple of those.
Sometimes I'm alone. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, and the cat is like meow, and he fits super well. Like, great musician that goes with like a quote unquote noise or a cat meowing, and he does really, really nice sound with those. So the Kiffness is like, it's not specifically related to cat, but I thought it would be even interesting for people that are not cat lover. You need to look up that musician. He's pretty good.
Cool. Part 2 of this question. What are your favorite collaborative test toolings for cross-functional Kubernetes dev teams?
That's a good question. So I have to plug a project at our KubeShop. Our KubeShop parent organization has a handful of cool cloud native products, and 2 of them are test oriented tools. One of them is Trace Test, which is observability oriented testing. It's super cool. They're able to boast, being able to create your test 90% faster than you could without trace-oriented testing, which and if you ever needed, is particularly in platform engineering, if you ever needed really deep testing, and by deep I mean that you want to test aspects of the inner workings of your Kubernetes cluster, and observability would be a good way to get that testing executed. Trace Test does a really great job at enabling leveraging OpenTelemetry in order to construct what those tests are, and you can test at kind of a lower level than most end-to-end tests afford you the opportunity to do. The other one is this project TestKube. And TestKube is a operator that there's a problem of testing in Kubernetes where like it's all kind of easy while you're running unit tests. But as soon as you're starting to run things that are more like end-to-end tests, but against an internal API that doesn't have an ingress and is only exposed through your UI layer, there are complexities that arise, and you either have to poke holes in your Kubernetes cluster in order to allow third-party tools to gain access to those back-end services, which none of us enjoy doing. Or you can run those tests inside that cluster and have that direct Kubernetes integration of those backend services, because the testing is also being conducted within that cluster. So a couple cool projects in that regard. I don't want to claim to be, much of a testing expert anymore. I've left that in the rear view 15 years ago or so. But those are two projects that are near and dear to my heart.
We did a live stream with TestKube not too long ago, so it's on our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about it. Actually, one of the comment that I had, because prior to the live stream, I didn't know the project that much, is like they're making testing cool. I mean, like I'm a developer advocate. I know it's important. I hate doing testing, but I know it's important, so I do it. And like they have a nice UI. Nice user experience. I mean, they're doing a great job, and I'm not saying that because like it's a project from our head company, like from the motherhood. It's just like they've shown us like great stuff, and they're doing great stuff. So yeah, try it.
100%. Yeah. Also really love Cypress just as a end-to-end tool. That's one that we leverage a lot at KubeVerse to test our cluster provisioning operations. It has never let us down. So if you're new to end-to-end testing, I can't advocate strongly enough for Cypress also.
I agree. I love K6 too.
K6 is great also.
Load testing. I think it's Grafana. Is it Grafana behind it? Grafana Labs, and yeah.
I didn't know Grafana was behind K6.
I think so.
You very well may be right.
Fred is right as usual. Grafana K6 is the official name. Yep.
Dig it.
Cool. I think we have. Well, I mean, do you guys have time for one more question? We don't.
Always.
We can run a little bit over if you.
It's your show, Kai. We're here for your duration.
All right, let's,
you've been on our show. We can do that for a long time. So like you decide when it's the end.
Cut us off when it's time. Yeah.
This was an interesting one that got sent in from Alexandre. How to handle big differences between environments, such as not running something in environment A or running it twice with two different configs.
Yeah, so the way we manage that at KubeVerse, and when you explore GitOps, you'll find that there are different patterns, and different companies have different opinions about ways to do different things. Our opinion at KubeVerse is that every cluster deserves its own registry of the applications that are delivered to that cluster. And if you want to organize those via environments, each environment gets its own registry of the applications that should be delivered to that environment. And so with that foundation, changes and differences between environments are not really a big deal. You're always able to go to the cluster or the environment and adjust what is included in that cluster's registration, because it's all just desired state that's in your Git repository. And there's a dedicated space for each one of the clusters and or each one of the environments that you're adding to your ecosystem.
Cool. Makes sense. Cool. Let's do one more. Why not? Right, one from Valentin. How do you tackle security taking into account how your product is built, i.e. on blocks of so many various technologies?
Yeah,
that's specifically about KubeVerse.
Yeah, it sounds like a KubeVerse question. That's a heavy challenge and burden to our team, is keeping the products up to date and keeping keeping security in mind and intact. And what's very difficult for us is finding that line where we should stop and allow you to continue. So what we do is certainly we have a heavy use of HashiCorp Vault. We use Vault to establish user groups. We establish OIDC providers and bind those OIDC clients into each one of the platform applications so that you get single sign-on to all of those applications on day one. So from a security posture, it's really great to be able to stand on a foundation where nobody gets access to any tools anywhere unless they're gaining access to those tools, leveraging single sign-on. And we leverage our users and groups using Terraform that's managed by Atlantis. So any adjustments that you wanted to, onboarding and offboarding engineers into your admin group or developer group is simply a pull request, and then they're automatically added to Vault with reasonable access and Argo CD with reasonable access. And when I say reasonable access, that's different from shop to shop. So you do have to roll up your sleeves and decide what you want from a security posture for your organization. We start you out with some sensible defaults. Like, for example, a developer can't log into Argo CD and delete applications. They also can't log into Vault and delete a production secret or view a production secret. But all of these things are configurable and configured in your GitOps repository. So if you wanted to tighten the screws, if you wanted to loosen the screws, you're able to do those based on the needs of your organization. From an intercommunication standpoint, we have all of our services intercommunicate through the clusters, so we don't go back out and around the internet in order for them to intercommunicate. And all of our ingresses are leverage Cert Manager to have short-lived TLS certs. So you have that HTTPS to all of the ingressed applications, and all of our ingressed applications are bound to our OIDC provider. So we do have it locked up and ready to go. It's ready to run production workloads. We also very highly recommend defending at depth from a security standpoint in Kubernetes. But we know that some of our end users will have 3 cloud native engineers, and other of our end users will have 200 cloud native engineers. And they will defend at depth at different capacities because of their team sizes and what they're willing to buy into. So things like policy as code, very good idea. Things like container scanning, very good idea. These are things that are just barely too opinionated for us to make core pieces of the KubeFirst platform, but you're able to add to the KubeFirst platform just like we were showing you in the GitOps catalog. And you don't need the GitOps catalog to add things to the KubeFirst platform. You can literally just pull request YAML into the GitOps repository, and you get your new applications, whatever they are. So that's at a high level what we do from a security standpoint. It is a heavy burden that we take on. But we do stand on a foundation where you should feel comfortable running production workloads on a secure KubeFirst platform on day one, and we would guide you to defend at depth to the capacity that your team's able to take that on.
And John, just because I love the GitOps catalog, and I know it's not really related to the security question, but I want to say, like, if you try KubeFirst and you have any suggestion of application that should be in the GitOps catalog, because we just started to have applications, so there's like a tons missing, let us know. And even on top of that, the GitOps catalog, it's an like public repository on GitHub. You can even have the application yourself. It's basically having the YAML plus the different configuration for the application to be able to be installed. But like, if you don't want to do that, and you're just like, hey, Fred, I want to see that application in the GitOps catalog, let us know. We're going to be more than happy to add it for you. We're just trying to, as John was saying, like, keep the platform is opinionated, but we need to keep it like has less opinionated as possible, so we can cover as many use cases as possible. And after that, everything is going to go into GitOps catalog. So just let us know.
Yeah, yep. What's that? It's that object-oriented principle of closed for modification, open for extension kind of thing.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly. That is it.
Cool. Just one last quick one before we say goodbye. John sent one just here, which means that he he's watching live. Any support for OPA or Topaz in KubeFirst?
No. So our only policy engine that we have in the cat. So I should start by saying, yes, absolutely. All you have to do is pull request any cloud native application to your GitOps repository, and
it will run. Yeah.
So we are infinitely extensible to 100%. We've literally had clients use KubeFirst and then take our KubeFirst platform and install KubeFirst into clouds that we don't support. Like there is no, because of the foundation of us having IAC and GitOps and secrets management, and you can always add any cloud native application on that foundation. So it's always very easy. Now, in terms of things that we've sort of gift wrapped for you, we do have a policy engine already. We have the Kyverno policy engine available in the GitOps catalog. But if you wanted OPA instead, we just want somebody that has a good depth of what a good default OPA implementation would be to propose that into our GitOps catalog, and we'd be happy to get that added. Really, that applies not just to policy engines, but anything else. I feel like there was a second part of that question, and I lost it in my
Topaz was the other
gotcha.
tool. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But
yeah,
the same point.
It's the same story. Yeah, we don't yet have that on the GitOps catalog, but we would open that that contribution.
Cool. Well, I think we've done a bit of Q&A, we've done a bit of intro, we've done a demo of KubeFirst. We the three of us could keep talking, but I know that Emma from the Civo team is the fourth panel on this chat. It's evening her time. We should probably let her go. Where can people find you? What's you have a community Slack, don't you? That's your primary kind of community place.
It is. That is the place. If you can get in touch with us, like on LinkedIn, Twitter, but like Slack is the best place to be. If you want to join, is kubefirst.io/Slack. And the cool thing about the community is that it's not just about KubeFirst. It's about everything cloud native, GitOps. So even if you don't use our product, you have question about some of the technology we used, you have question about GitOps, you're watching that recording and you have question, join the Slack community. We're going to be more than happy to help you answer your question. And we reach a point where like it's not even just like KubeFirst employee answering the question. Like her community is active, so you don't just have access to her expertise, you have access to every user's in the community's expertise, which is the cool thing about part of my job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing about the Civo Slack community, which you're both users on Civo, which means that you have presence on the Slack community. As soon as you join Civo, you get an invitation. That is also a very knowledgeable community around Kubernetes, cloud native, bunch of other things. So there's channels for a whole lot of topics, but generally, if you have a question, just ask, and somebody will answer. So friendly communities are the best, and
sure.
And I'm gonna with that, friendly communities are the best, and friendly co-panelists are the best too. And thank you so much, Frederick and John, for joining today. It's been great. I've learned a lot, and hopefully people have enjoyed watching. So thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thanks so much, guys.